And then he doesn't see anything, so he puts his face right next to the speaker. I couldn't resist. What the fuck are you looking at? And this guy flew. I never saw a guy run so fast except when. It was great. I mean, we had a great time with McDonald's. So, yeah, those were kind of interesting pranks. Back in 1988, I don't know if you know my history, that was the first time I was federally busted for computer hacking. A friend of mine and I were hacking into a company called Digital Equipment Corporation. And what happened is we had a falling out, and he informed the FBI what I was doing, and they set up a sting operation. I was arrested. At the time, the federal prosecutors had told the judge that I had the capability of starting a nuclear war by whistling into a payphone. At the time I was in court, when I went to court for my detention hearing, as they call it, I was expecting to get out, because I just spent 3 days in Terminal Island Federal Prison, and it wasn't a fun experience. And I go to court and I'm ready, I'm looking at, when am I going to get out of here? And then when the federal prosecutor said that I could just whistle into a phone and start a nuclear war, I actually grinned because I thought he would lose all credibility with the court. But what happened is the judge says, "You're absolutely right, Mr. Prosecutor. In fact, we need to make sure that he can't even get to a telephone in the prison." So I ended up in the hole in solitary confinement. But eventually I was released. And at that time I was keeping my nose clean. I found new hobbies and new interests. And my brother called me one day, my half-brother, and he told me that this guy, Eric Hines, wants to speak with me, that he used to be a hacker, and he has a lot of interesting things he'd like to talk to me about. And I kind of really wasn't that interested. And my brother called me again, saying, "This guy really wants to talk to you." So I called the telephone number. It turned out to be this guy that wasn't Eric, but what he would do is he would actually page Eric to his number, and he'd conference it in this ultra, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. So I finally get this guy on the phone, and he seemed very knowledgeable about phone phreaking. He knew a lot about the internal systems at the phone company. He knew about equipment in the central offices, and it intrigued me because I had a passion for technology. So we set up a meeting to meet at a hamburger hamlet, and I brought a friend of mine along, a guy named Louis DePayne, who incidentally was my hacking partner for a number of years. And we meet this guy, Eric, at a hamburger hamlet, and he starts telling us that he was part of the Kevin Poulsen case. Everybody familiar with Kevin Poulsen? Okay. And he starts telling me about all their escapades into phone company offices. I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and I said, "So what happened to you? Because Poulsen was busted." He says, "Well, I was in Texas, and I was busted for doing some sort of credit card fraud, but they wanted some information about how I was doing the fraud, the FBI, so I cooperated with them and told them how I was able to commit these frauds." This is him telling me. "And I got out early. I got a deal." I said, "So they didn't ask you about Poulsen?" He goes, "No, they only wanted to know about me." Doesn't sound like the FBI. No, usually they want to know about everything. So eventually, during the conversation, he says, "We're talking about different systems at the phone company, Cosmos, SCCS. I'm not going to go into all the MISAR. Remember all these, familiar with all these names of internal systems at Ma Bell? And then he mentions a system called SAS. He goes, "You know about SAS, don't you?" I go, "Maybe. What does it do?" He says, "Where you can monitor anybody in Pacific Bell." And I go, no. I go, "Tell me more about it." And then he clammed up and didn't say another word, and the meeting ended. And I was intrigued. I wanted to find out. I didn't know about this system called SAS. What exactly is it? And how he told me he discovered it is he and Kevin Poulsen were actually in one of the phone company central offices, found the equipment, and were able to hook up a tape recorder and actually record the protocol going back and forth. So what I did is I called the phone company, and using my social engineering skills, I wanted to find out the company that developed this tool. And so after about 2 or 3 phone calls, I found out the name of the company that manufactured SAS. I do some research on this company, and I find out